Caddo Mills Historical Society for inviting us to give us an opportunity to get out there and tell you about the issues that face our district court. And of course, certainly, thank you to my Valentine Selena here, as well as my family and friends here for being here to support us. And thank you, Bobby Harper, because I know it was not easy to set up a forum with such short notice and organize it. Thank you all. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Steve Tittle, and it is my pleasure and honor to serve as your 196th Judicial District Court Judge. I serve all of Hunt County. A lot of people don't know what a district court judge does. It's the highest trial court in the state of Texas at the state level. It is an absolute privilege and honor to serve you. As far as my background, I went to SMU for undergrad, where I got a BA in finance and political science. Then I went to Pepperdine University, one of the most conservative law schools in America, and got my law degree. I immediately came to Hunt County and began my public service as a prosecutor. For 10 years, I represented the state of Texas in serious felony offenses, including capital murder cases, sexual assault of children, and so forth, advocating for the victim. My life has been devoted to improving Hunt County and to serving as a public servant. And I've done it honorably because I care about Hunt County and I care about its future. After I had served for 10 years, I ran as a Republican. I've always been a Republican. I've always been, since I've known what the phrase is, a constitutional conservative. It is with overwhelming support from Hunt County that I had the privilege of becoming the first ever Republican elected district judge ever to serve Hunt County. That probably amazes a lot of people that we haven't had one, but I'm the first, and I appreciate that honor. I've served honorably because I have lived up to every one of the campaign promises that I promised I would do. When I ran for office, I said the first thing I will do is separate the civil cases from the criminal cases, so that we don't come in there every morning and have 40-plus inmates in orange jumpsuit and shackles, calling those cases up and intermingling those with adoptions and divorces and family law cases, to make the civil people feel like criminals for sitting in there, costing both the court-appointed attorneys and the county and the civil people as well. I separated that from day one. Also, I promised I would get rid of the backlog of cases. When I came in, we had inmates facing serious felony offenses sitting in the Hunt County Jail for over 3 years. That is legally and morally awful. My team, including my court coordinator, my bailiff, and my court reporter, got to work. There was a lot of talk at the time about whether or not we needed a third district court. I said, absolutely not. Let's get in there and work those cases. And that's what we did. We've had more jury trials each year in our court than the other district court has, and almost of all 3 of those other courts combined each year. When you house an inmate in jail for 3 years, it costs us not only $50 approximately to house them. So to reduce that, we've reduced the wait from over 3 years from the longest serving inmates to less than 1 year. All of my inmates have served less than 1 year, except for 2 who are just slightly over that mark for extenuating circumstances. Like I said, that saves you not just $50 a day, but it helps prevent what Mr. Minner was talking about. We also pay the court-appointed attorneys $100 an hour. Do you want to pay them for 3 years to turn a case or less than 1 year? That affects Hunt County taxpayers. It is our obligation and duty to provide them with competent representation. That's important to all of us. That's what we do, but we need to do it fiscally responsible. And that's reducing that weight, and that's what it has done. Our comparable court, the 354th, spent approximately $950,000 on indigent defense last fiscal year. Our court, who handles more cases, spent approximately $550,000, $400,000 less. I appreciate the opportunity to come here this evening so I can tell you about this, but you're certainly not going to read about it in the Herald Banner. I saw a story earlier this week that said, well, if you take out capital murder cases, then you can compare apples to oranges instead, and these are the numbers. Well, that's nonsense. You care about the bottom line. You care about how many dollars I'm saving you, not the manipulation of numbers. That's what I've done. You probably heard a little bit about probation fees. Let me tell you, the courts have to appoint a director of probation who serves the court. For those people who are fortunate enough to get probation, and our serious felony offenses. The courts create probation, the courts approve their budget, and that's what I've done. They have about a $1.1 million budget. I have voted to approve that. I have voted against the raises that they got over a year ago that were between 5 and 15% for every single one of those employees. Fiscally, I thought it was irresponsible. I voted against it. And approved. It passed. That affects their bottom line. Not only are they fully funded at $1.1 million, they had over a $400,000 surplus account. You show me some other state agency that has over a 33% surplus. It doesn't happen. I take credit for helping that, but it's too high. When good, responsible governments, whether it's at the local, county, state, or federal level, collect too much, whatever the source, you need to quit collecting it. I set our priorities also. If they could collect that much in probation fees from people who were primarily indigent, primarily poor, then instead they need to get those monthly payments and apply for probation, for restitution payments for victims here in Hunt County who've had their houses burglarized or been assaulted. That's what the priority is.
2 minutes.
Thank you. I was so glad to hear Mr. Minner bring up the issue of indigent defense. Hunt County pays $100 an hour for court-appointed lawyers. Every county was required by November 1st to update their indigent defense plan. Those are still being approved, and the newer versions are placed online now. I can tell you Rockwall pays between $50 and $75 an hour for something Hunt County pays $100 an hour. Why are we paying that much more? The judges vote on that. I will not vote for that plan. I have not voted for that plan. I think the other judges need to be asked why they're spending taxpayer dollars that way and why it should change. The other big issue is we have no ceiling. We have no caps. Whatever they build, if it's fair and reasonable and they build us, we pay it. It comes out of the county's general fund. Why do the other counties have reasonable caps, as you just heard about, and Hunt County doesn't? It is a bad system that needs to be changed. I've asked for 3 years to have a public hearing on the matter. There is no movement. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to talk about my opponent because he chose to be at a bar down the street tonight rather than to be here to be held accountable to the public. But I'm going to say you will not find my signature on that plan. You'll find my opponent's. And the question is why. We need to be held accountable for that. So if you hear that it's probation or any of these things that are not a state district office, that's nonsense. It is a state office. As a matter of fact, they're being sued in Austin, Travis County, because they are a state judicial district department. It is an absolute privilege and honor to serve all of you. It is one of the most important things in my life to run that court, to run it efficiently, to run it fairly, have good results, at a reasonable cost. I appreciate all your support. I ask for you to vote for me again. Early voting obviously starts on Tuesday of next week. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. David Bench, I believe, is going to speak for Andy, who is unable to be here tonight. I think Mr. Bench is Andy's father. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I am David Bench. I think a lot of people here know me. I've worked with a lot of the folks here. I spent 30 years at it, on quality systems / some other things. So I know a lot of people here. But anyway, Andy asked me to come and speak. If I get on the right glasses, then I can see what I'm reading here. Anyway, Andy asked me to come and speak tonight. Unfortunately, he is at another citizens get-together down in Union Valley. Last I heard, they don't have a bar there. And that was scheduled before tonight's event, of course, or he would have been here. He would have loved to have been here. He was really torn about not being able to be here, but he couldn't disappoint those people down there. I do want to thank the Kalamazoo Historical Society and especially Bobby for having us here. And Andy said, thank you for letting me send a representative. Y'all have to put up with me instead of Andy. That's too bad for you. To tell you a little bit about Andy, he is a native of Hunt County. He graduated from Greenville High School. He got a BA over at East Texas State University, and then he went on to graduate from SMU Law School. After law school, he did practice law for a couple of years in Dallas prior to returning back home to Greenville. I will say that he scared me to death when he told me, "Dad, I'm going to quit my job in Dallas." I almost dropped my teeth. And he said, "I want to be in Greenville because that's my home." So he came and opened up a law firm in Greenville, and he worked as a lawyer for quite a while and became, at one point, he was the Greenville City Attorney. He was elected as a Republican judge to the Hunt County Court of Law in 2006 and took over in January of 2007. Since taking the bench in the Court of Law, Andy has accomplished some significant things for Hunt County. When he took the bench, there were over criminal cases pending before the court. Think about that. 6,000 cases. And 3,000 cases were being filed in the court each year. These cases were being allowed to languish for more than a year. And, of course, Andy had promised the voters that he would see about fixing that when he took office. And he did, kept his promise. In order to address the backlog, what Andy did was he put in a system of long hours by himself and the lawyers, made them work along beside him, and it cut the backlog by 4,000 cases. 4,000 cases by the time the Hunt County Court of Law number 2 came along in 2009. Today, Andy has less than 200 active criminal cases in his court. Yes. He resolved 98% of his criminal cases filed in his court within 90 days. He also promised to punish guilty offenders, and he's done that. When he took the bench in 2007, almost all defendants who came before the previous judge asked for a judge to assess the penalty or the punishment. Today, it is rare for a defendant to ask the judge to set punishment. This is because Andy is tough on crime and tougher than the previous judge was. They do not want Andy to punishment. As a judge, Andy knows and follows the law. In his 7 years on the bench, Andy has been reversed only once following a trial. This is a record which he is extremely proud of, only once in 7 years. Andy is also concerned about the cost of court-appointed attorney's fees to the taxpayers of Hunt County. Andy, this is why he brought the West Texas Regional Defender Program to Hunt County, which is where death penalty cases, which are the ones where we spend all the money on, can be assigned to the program by the preceding judge. This program can save Hunt County hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, over the next several years. In addition to his work in the courtroom, Andy has been a public servant outside of his job. Andy is the president of the YMCA Board of Directors and is currently in his second term doing that. He is currently working with the YMCA to establish low-cost child care around the county for the afford after-school care. Andy is a member of the Salvation Army Board and is chairman of the committee that is working to establish a shelter in Greenville. There has already been success stories of a 6-man shelter that was established last year. Andy is a member of the Community Health Service Agency Board, which provides low-cost health care to the poor through medical facilities throughout the region. Andy helped to establish, through the YMCA, a program in Hunt County to train adults to prevent, recognize, and accurately report child sexual abuse. Andy has spoken to dozens of government, civic, and nonprofit organizations, encouraging them to train their employees to identify victims of child sexual abuse so that people who prey on children can be arrested, prosecuted, and punished. Through Andy's efforts, every school district in Hunt County, including Tittle Mills, has agreed to train their teachers in this program, which will help and protect thousands of children. And at a speech he gave to YMCA CEOs from across Texas, over half of the YMCA organizations agreed to follow what Andy and the YMCA in Greenville is doing and to train their employees. This action by Andy now helps to protect children across Texas, not just in Hunt County. Andy is the chairman of the Hunt County Bail Bond Board, the chairman of the Hunt County Juvenile Board, and the co-chair of the Greenville Independent School District Bond Committee. Tremendous amount of Andy's time. But he believes it is the duty of every citizen who is able to help those in need. next district judge, Andy will continue to follow the law in every case, regardless of his personal feelings. And as he has done for the last 7 years, Andy will continue to hold lawyers to reasonable deadlines while at the same time ensuring that every person's rights to a fair trial and free from bias and prejudice is observed. And he will continue to punish criminals in a strict manner while considering the facts in each case.
2 minutes, Mr. Bench.
I want to thank you for being here tonight and giving me the chance to speak on Andy's behalf. We need to get Andy in that court, and we believe Andy has earned your support. And if you talk to anyone who's worked with him or worked around him, they'll tell him he's the right person for the job. And we ask for your vote on March the 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.